and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Budapest here in Central Europe. I hope everybody has had a good week, is staying healthy, strong, and productive. In this class, everyone, we are looking at Task 2, finishing our essay for a Band 9. We will be focusing on the body paragraphs and the conclusion for the essay that we started yesterday. If you weren't here yesterday, that's okay. We will go through the introductory paragraph so you can get caught up. Hi, Shiro Jidin. Hi, Amanjat. Hi, Anas. Good to see Flower Sun as well, and some regular students. Michael Fan, Abhishek. Oh, my computer fell asleep. No worries, just a sec. Good to see our members, Abhishek, Hina, Rajveer, Devyani. Nice to see all of you in the class as well. Students, this lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Check us out there. And for general IELTS help, check us out at IELTShelp.com. On both of these websites, we have lots and lots of materials to help you. Just a quick look at these websites. This is our academic website here. You can click that big red button to join our premium course. And for the general version of the test, make sure you're looking for this green background at gieltshelp.com and click that big red button to get access to all of our videos, practice exams, interactive course, and much, much more. We have apps that connect to the websites. Academic IELTS Help is the app that connects to aehelp.com, and General IELTS Help is the app that connects to gieltshelp.com. Anjani, you're in Canada. Awesome. I bet it's beautiful weather right now. There, for sure. It's getting warm, I'm guessing. Students, if you have questions, send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com about the IELTS or about our courses. I'm happy to help with those. And tomorrow we'll do speaking, so be ready for that. And right now we'll get into our task 2 writing. So here's our question that we started yesterday. Let's get focused. Read the question again. We'll read the introductory paragraph and then we'll get right into our body paragraphs. Parimal is in the UK, right on. So people are reaching their goals. It's good to read. Good to read in the chat. All right. So task 2 writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Prevention is better than cure. Researching and treating diseases is too costly, so it would be better to invest in preventative measures. To what extent do you agree or disagree? We did lots of great planning, and through that planning, we came up with a lot of good ideas yesterday. And then we came up with our introductory paragraph. And here's our introduction right now. So, funding the war on illness is one of the biggest expenses incurred by both individuals and society. This is our hook. Makes the reader interested. Then the background. Not only government, but also the private sector invests billions of dollars on both prevention and intervention of diseases to maintain public health, thereby improving the quality and improving life quality and productivity. Maximizing the return on investment in the healthcare field is in the interest of all people. I strongly agree that prevention is better than intervention, as it not only improves quality of life, but it also saves a lot of money. Okay. So this is a direct thesis. Notice how I didn't write this essay will discuss the importance of prevention versus the cure. Okay. Thanks, Parimal. I appreciate that. So notice how this is a direct thesis. Direct thesis, that means it tells the reader the content of the essay clearly. Okay, so before we get into our body paragraph 1, just really quickly on this, Okay, make sure you note this, everyone watching. So a direct thesis will get you a better band score than an indirect thesis in the IELTS. Okay, keep that in mind. That's really important. And in university, you almost always have to use a direct thesis in your essays. Most professors do not like to see an indirect thesis statement. Most. It's not always true, but most, okay? A direct thesis, it tells the reader clearly the contents of the essay, okay? Indirect thesis hints but does not express the clear contents of the essay. Okay, so an example of an indirect thesis would be like the one that many people write, and it's amazing that a lot of schools and teachers haven't discovered this. I'm not sure why, but anyway, so an indirect thesis is like this essay will discuss the benefits of investing into prevention rather than intervention. Okay, so that would be an indirect thesis. It doesn't really tell the reader anything more than the question. Okay, that's already somewhat clear from the question that's being asked. The direct thesis says that, so just like what we wrote here, you know what, instead of rewriting it, I'm just going to copy paste it for you. So this is a direct thesis. Okay. And I'll tell you why academic and professional people like a direct thesis better, just so you're clear on that. Okay. So a direct thesis is, I strongly agree that prevention is better than intervention, as it not only improves quality of life, but it also saves a lot of money. So this one tells the reader that your body paragraph 1 will be improving quality of life. And it tells the reader that your body paragraph 2 will be about saving a lot of money. So it tells the organization and the content of your essay, as opposed to the indirect thesis, which doesn't express any of this, okay? The reason why academic people, IELTS, and professionals like a direct thesis better than an indirect thesis is because then they know what they're reading. It's not wasting their time. It's not making them guess what they're going to read. And if they're interested, they will continue reading about these points. This one here, the reader has to keep reading in order to even understand whether they want to read this information or not, and it keeps them guessing. Okay? Does that make sense? So does it make sense, the difference between indirect, direct thesis, and why a direct thesis is preferable in these academic contexts? Mohammed says, yeah, that seems to make sense. Okay, it's probably, you would probably prefer that as well to save yourself time. Okay. All right, so clearly in this case, our body paragraph 1, okay. Yeah, good, fantastic. Everybody's clear on that now. Yeah, satisfying times, it's for most questions. So I don't want to get into the rare situations. There are certain types of philosophical debates or storytelling where you want to keep the reader guessing, so you use an indirect thesis. But outside of philosophical debates or narratives, indirect thesis is not always the best. Okay, you have to think about your goals, Chabi. Okay, so here we're clear that body paragraph 1 needs to be about improving quality of life by investing money into prevention. Okay? All right. So body paragraph 1, as all body paragraphs, starts with a topic sentence. And the topic sentence is a deeper definition of, and it makes sense for the writer, by the way, as well. So when you have a direct thesis, it's easier for you as the writer to put your essay together. Okay. Yeah, so you can use not only but also a couple of times. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. All right, so body 1, topic sentence, a deeper definition of your thesis, point 1. Okay. Use different words, paraphrase, and give more content. So in this case, the example of course, is investing money into prevention improves quality of life more than intervention. So what I wrote here is just a repeat, but what you want to do here is paraphrase this and use some different words. Okay, so you give more clarity to your reader. Paraphrasing, of course, we use that in our own language, in every language, to give clarity. Teachers, professors paraphrase a lot to give more clarity to students. That's what we're doing here. So Ravdeep's asking, what's the maximum word limit? There is no maximum, that's right. It's basically the maximum number of words that you can fit into your page. It's like 400 or something, I think, depending on your letter size, okay? All right, cool. So I have some topic sentences come up. Rajveer says, the topic sentence, spending a significant proportion of money for prevention by both the regime and community can potentially bring ease to improving living standards. Rajveer, that's just repetition. I still feel that's repetition. We've already mentioned a lot of that in the introduction. So something a little bit different, okay, Rajveer? It's just repetition so far. Amanjot says, to start with, it is important to maintain our health for higher productivity by doing daily exercise, good nutrition, prohibiting outside food, good health can be attained. Amanjot, I think you're writing off topic, and please don't write to start with, especially in a body paragraph. It's awkward. You already started your essay with the introduction. You don't need to write to start with, okay? It's low level, it's considered low level writing. It's like grade 10 level writing to say, to start with. Okay, sometimes it's useful, Amanjot, but usually not. Okay. Bekjan says, allocating government treasure into building sports facilities and producing nutritious foods improves living conditions of individuals, which prevents any illness. Yeah, okay, that's fine too. Think about, so students, try to visualize here before you write your more of your topic sentences. So imagine if I catch the flu, and of course I've got a runny nose, I'm dizzy, maybe I'm throwing up, I have a stomach ache, and then I take some medication that's developed by the government and by the medical society to feel better. Okay, that's my option 1. Option 2 is I take vitamins and I go and play sports at a recreation center that's paid by the government, and I don't get the flu. Okay, think about that. So quality of life, right? Visualize the information. So not getting sick, right? Okay, Bekjan has another topic sentence, or sorry, that's a different one there. So allocating government budget into building sports facilities and producing nutritious food improves living conditions of individuals, which prevents illness. Yeah, it's okay, Bekjan. There's a little missing information there. Seni Surani says prevention, like how to take care of our own health by doing exercise and taking certain vitamins daily is necessary to avoid disease. Seni, that's more of the explanation. So students, keep in mind when you're writing an essay, you have to think about your reader like an alien. And the big difference between writing an essay and speaking to somebody is you cannot correct the information in writing if it's misunderstood. So if I read what you're writing and I don't understand what you mean, I can't ask you to clarify. I can't say, hey, I'm not really sure what you're saying here. Can you clarify that? Because you're not there, okay? The author's not present. So you only get one chance. So your writing has to be better than when you're speaking. in the sense of clarity. Okay? So Alex says, allocating millions of dollars for the establishment of health in society certainly not only keeps our community healthy in the future, but also improves overall life expectancy. Okay. How about something like this? So it doesn't have to be complicated, students. Don't think, oh, it has to be something tricky. It just has to be the right idea. Okay? So spending, here's my topic sentence. I'll give you an example. So spending millions, let's go with billions. So spending money, let's keep it simple. Spending money to avoid getting ill is always better for people than getting sick and then suffering through the illness until some type of medical help leads to recovery. Okay? So remember the question here. We're talking about spending money on prevention instead of intervention as the better choice, as the better investment, right? So all I'm saying here is that if I can spend money on staying healthy, it's always going to help me feel better and happier than if I'm spending money on actually getting through the illness, right? Does that make sense? So I'm not overcomplicating this, okay? So spending money to avoid getting ill is always better for people than getting sick and then suffering through the illness until some type of medical help leads to recovery. Does that make sense if I write the topic sentence like this? Okay, and now I can explain this with ideas like sports centers and advertising for the importance of vitamins or hygiene. Okay, so now I can get into the explanations. So, explanation. Okay. Why? Okay, illnesses are painful. Usually, activities which prevent illness make us strong and feel good. Okay, so hopefully that makes more sense. Arza says, in general, allocating funds for precaution would improve life quality of humans more than the remedy, since it consists of some type of physical exercise and commitment. Yeah, Arza, that's much better. Okay, so you're much closer here, I think, than the other ones that I've read so far. It's good. All right, students, write an explanation for this. So now you can explain why this is true and why this works and what can be done for this to work. Okay. So give me the explanation. So here, when you hear this in some other classes, often you hear supporting point 1. Okay, but supporting point 1, it's not necessarily an example. It's more of an explanation of why, right? So not only do governments build recreation centers for fitness center masses where they can do exercise like walking and jogging, but also good quality food to keep people in shape. Okay, Marasa, that's good. So how is that better than catching the flu or something even worse? Okay, some of you might even think of the COVID. Yeah, absolutely, Pavandeep. So you could think of an example of the COVID here, or use the COVID for an explanation. Absolutely. The COVID, Pavandeep, would be a really good one for an example coming after the explanation. Okay. So Amanjot says, because there are some hidden diseases like cancer that can turn into life-threatening conditions. Not only that, Amanjot, but those are very painful illnesses, right? Satisfying Time says, recreational facilities and parks can improve health conditions by 40%, giving citizens the ability to do exercise to prevent getting sick in the first place. Okay, so I would write something like this. Where most illnesses are extremely painful with symptoms like coughing, fever, and aches. Preemptive measures like funding sports and nutrition lead to an overall sense of strength and happiness. Okay, so again, it's not the trick to getting good band scores, students, in the task 2 really is not necessarily getting really fancy with the words and the sentences, but it's more about your thinking, the way you approach it. And when you're learning the IELTS, you want to do what's called a two-prong approach. So one way is to improve your language, like your vocabulary and grammar. But sometimes the even faster way to improve your band scores is just change the way that you visualize and think of the information. So notice that I haven't really written anything too complex, but it's definitely a very high band score because it's very accurate for the question. So spending money to avoid getting ill is always better for people than getting sick and then suffering through the illness until some type of medical help leads to recovery. As where most illnesses are extremely painful with symptoms like coughing, fever, and aches, preemptive measures like funding sports and nutrition lead to an overall sense of strength and happiness. Okay, so does that make sense? Okay, does that make sense? So it's not all that complex, but it's very clear. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a lot of clarity for my reader. Okay. All right, Kushal Borania says, allocating a big slice of the health budget for health education and making people aware of the importance of balanced nutrition not only make individuals more fit, but also more productive. Okay, Kushal, so you're going towards productivity. It's not bad. Okay, it's a good explanation, I think, Kushal. Just a couple of corrections there, Kushal, when I read it. Make sure to check that on the time, 22 minutes. Lambda says, as they say, healthy population means a healthy society. So governments have to increase quality of life by developing infrastructure, specifically direct social impact, such as research. Lambda, I'm kind of getting lost in your thoughts there. I'm not sure, maybe it's just me, but I'm not exactly clear what you're really trying to tell me. Okay. One way, students, that you can check the accuracy of your ideas is to give your question to, or sorry, give your essay to a couple of friends or a couple people, have them read the body paragraph and ask them what question you're trying to answer. If the question matches with the question that you're answering, the task 2, then it's good. If they say a different question, you have to start thinking why. Does that make sense? So that was a little bit of a tip or a trick. Okay, I'm gonna write that down for you. So here's a little tip or a trick. I'll call this one a trick. Okay, so give your body paragraph or paragraphs, if you have both of them, to a couple of friends or classmates, and ask them, of course, make sure they don't know the question, and ask them to read it and tell you what question you seek to answer with your writing. Okay, so if they say the same as your task 2 question, you are on the right track. The reason I say this is sometimes it's difficult for us as individuals to know if we're being clear in our writing. Okay, so if they say the same as your task 2 question, you're on the right track. So not just one, because it's easy, maybe one person just misunderstands you, but if you ask 3 or 4 of your classmates or your friends and they all tell you a different question, then you're probably really off mark. So if 2 or 3 people all believe that you are answering a different question, you are likely off topic. Okay, so pay attention to that. It's good exercise. All right. Okay. So here we have our supporting point 1 or explanation 1. Now, if I want to add a little bit more, make it that strong band 9, maybe a little bit more about productivity. So furthermore, since the public remains in good health, they can be further or more productive and increase the overall economy of that society. Okay, so I can add a little bit more here. Now comes my example. Okay, and I think somebody was asking, could I use COVID here? Yeah, COVID-19 would be a great example of where governments were very quick to emphasize prevention instead of intervention because of the danger. So notice how governments immediately sacrificed billions of dollars because they knew that if everybody gets sick with COVID-19, the intervention will likely lead to an even greater economic catastrophe. So here's body 1 so far. Now think of a specific example, okay? And again, this is a first-person essay, so here your example should be first person. So notice how in the thesis I wrote, I strongly agree that prevention. So I'm showing the reader here that this is a first-person essay. And when you start with a first-person essay, it's good to show that in each body paragraph. And a good place for that is in the example. So the example should be specific, visible, and reflect the author's voice. Okay, so in this case, first person. Visible. All right. So give me an example. Okay. All right, Nigheim says, my mother, who has a strong immune system, rarely gets sick or catches the flu, and she always eats good nutrition and lots of veggies. So she's never had to take a day off work and has contributed greatly to society. Nigheim, very good. Just finish that with the productivity part, right? So has never had to take a sick day and has contributed greatly to society through her efforts as professor or mathematician or whatever your mom does. Okay, Nigheim? So good. Think of all of your explanations and combine that into your example. Very nice. Okay. Seni Surani says, besides that, the government can allocate funds for developing the infrastructure of healthcare facilities and hospitals. Seni, we don't really need to make a suggestion on what the government can do. The essay is not necessarily asking us for that. We've already done the explanation of why prevention is better. So Seni, if I read your sentence, beside that, the government can allocate funds. If you just give that to me, and I don't know the task 2 question, I would think that you're trying to answer the question of where do you think governments should invest money? Okay? So that's the question I think you're trying to answer, but that's not actually the question that you're trying to answer. Okay? So that's why I'm telling you, students, that it's a really good trick to give your writing to somebody else and ask them, what's the question I'm trying to answer with this? Okay? Rajveer says, lately, the Isha Foundation in India takes a pledge to hold an average of around 1,000 awareness campaigns on healthy eating across the nation for people's knowledge to stay safe from fatal illness. This has increased GDP by 2%. Okay, Rajveer, finish it with that. So it has increased. And include the first person, Rajveer. So I read that the Isha Foundation in India holds an average of 1,000 awareness campaigns on healthy eating across the nation each day. And this has increased GDP in the country by 1%. Okay, Rajveer? Then I would know that, okay, your preemptive measures to help the society, okay? All right. So, let's see some more. Samuel Sidhirvara says, as the pandemic progressed globally, although there was no actual cure for it, governments quickly intervened to provide preventative measures like social distancing to curb suffering and decrease negative economic impact. That would be a good way to do it, Samuel. Okay. And you can say, as I experienced just recently. As I recently experienced with the COVID-19 pandemic, governments were quick to implement. Now, some governments were, some governments weren't. Let's not get into that, right? Governments were quick to implement preventative measures like mandatory lockdown to decrease public suffering and negative economic impact by overburdening the medical system, but we don't need that, okay? So that would be a very good example to back that up. So as I recently experienced with the COVID-19 pandemic, governments were quick to implement preventative measures like mandatory lockdown to decrease public suffering and negative economic impact. That would be a very, very strong example with real context and content for this essay. Okay? All right. Now, here you can have a connective concluding sentence. And in this case, it's quite easy because it's one of two reasons that you're strongly in support of prevention. Okay, and that's all you need to write. So this is one of two reasons I am, don't write contractions like I am strongly in favor of prevention instead of cure, or I'm strongly in favor of spending funds on prevention instead of cure. Okay, so that would be your band 9 level body paragraph. All right, so let's read this together and make sure it makes sense and make sure it's clear. Make sure it answers the question of, is it better to invest money into prevention than a cure? Okay, here we go. So spending money to avoid getting ill is always better for people than getting sick and then suffering through the illness until some type of medical help leads to recovery. As where most illnesses are extremely painful, with symptoms like coughing, fever, and aches, preemptive measures like funding sports and nutrition lead to an overall sense of strength and happiness. Furthermore, since the public remains in good health, they can be more productive and increase the overall economy of that society. As I recently experienced with the COVID-19 pandemic, governments were quick to implement preventative measures like mandatory lockdown, to decrease public suffering and negative economic impact. This is one of two reasons I'm strongly in favor of spending money on prevention instead of cure. Okay, all right, so that's your Band 9 essay. Again, you don't have to overthink it, it just has to be really clear. All right, okay, and that's your body paragraph 1. Now body paragraph 2, of course, is the saving money. So saves lots of money. Okay. Now we've already hinted at that. So society stays productive. That's of course one way that society generates more money. But here we're saying that we save money as well by investing into prevention. So what does that mean? So again, write your topic sentence, students, for body paragraph 2. So body paragraph 2 starts with a topic sentence, and it's a deeper definition of saving money by investing into prevention rather than intervention. Okay, so topic sentence. Some deeper definition of investing into prevention rather than intervention saves money. Okay, so something about that. That's what you need to write here. Okay, and I saw a few other really good examples. Samuel's asking, how is this connecting sentence, spending money on preventing disease apart from improving the quality of life also helps to curb public expenditure? Yeah, Samuel, it's not bad. You don't have to introduce the next paragraph in that connecting sentence. You can. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay, Samuel. I like it. I think you could still get a Band 9 or get a Band 9 with that. Yeah. Okay. That's definitely a technique, Samuel, where you introduce the next paragraph gently with your connecting sentence. Okay. All right, Bekjan says, taking preventative measures are more cost-effective than spending billions of dollars on remedies. Okay, sure, yeah, all right. How do you know that, Bekjan? Where do you know that from? Think about that. Okay. Okay, Amanjad says, saving money means instead of taking treatment, we are intervening before the disease. It's too repetitive, Amanjad. There's nothing deeper in that than what's already in the thesis. Georgie says, investing money in prevention helps us avoid the final result. It's very mysterious, Georgie. I don't have clarity of what you're saying there. Topic sentences are usually quite expressive, students. Not always, but in many cases, they're quite expressive. Rajveer says, curing fatal diseases costs thousands of bucks. Bucks is a little bit colloquial, Rajveer. Stay away from that in academic writing. So curing fatal diseases costs thousands of dollars or rupees to families only if they do not halt the spread of the dangerous virus or bacteria. That is why prevention is recommended. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. Satisfying Time says, initiating the right protective decision is always a better way to save more money and keep people active. Chabi, Satisfying Times, I think that's just a repeat of the introduction. Okay. Koshal says, moreover, spending more money on precautions not only improves quality of life, but also saves billions of dollars as well. Yeah, okay, sure. Nick Heyman says, preventing disease in the first place can greatly help nations' economy from spending billions of dollars to cure illness. Okay, all right, Nick Haim, that's better. That's better. I would write something like history has shown that the cost of preventing most illnesses is only a fraction of the price of curing that disease. Okay, so when we think about diseases like AIDS, cancer, COVID-19, then we can see that spending money on preventing, and we don't have to go far here. Again, remember that strategy of thinking small to big, okay? So what happens oftentimes, students, is students try to think of the big picture first, and then they try to think of the example second, and then, or the explanation, I should say, and then they try to think of the example third, okay? So what you can also do is you can take this and you can just turn it around, all right? So think about the example, okay? And in this case, you don't have to go far. So to help somebody recover from the COVID-19, you need a respirator, right? So this is where you want to visualize, students. So see your context that's around you, right? A respirator costs thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So this is when somebody's already sick with COVID, okay? If they can just recover and they don't have symptoms, fine, whatever. But if they go to the hospital and they have breathing problems and they need a breathing machine, it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, right? Plus all those nurses, all those doctors, the hospital space, it's very expensive. Now, if somebody is being preventative, okay, then they put on a face mask. Okay, for example, how much does a face mask cost? Let's say these days it's expensive because supply and demand. So let's say that one face mask, a disposable face mask or a washable face mask, costs $5. Okay, $5 versus $10,000 is clearly a very significant difference. It's a small fraction. Okay, in English we say a small fraction of the cost in this case. So when I think about this and I visualize this, it becomes a lot easier for me to come up with my explanations and my topic sentences. Okay, so don't just think from the big to the small, but also practice turning that around, thinking of the example first and then going, oh, okay, why is it more cost effective? How do we save money when we invest into prevention rather than intervention? Oh yeah, wait a second, in the COVID there, that's an example. Let's get a face mask for $5 instead of going to the hospital, getting hooked up to a respirator and costing tens of thousands of dollars each day, okay? All right, so keep that in mind. Don't just think big to small, but also think small to big. This is just a couple of the strategies that you learn when you go through the course on our websites. We have all of these goodies in our premium package, so not just a sales pitch, but you can really get a lot from that, okay? All right, so now we want to explain this, okay? Okay, and don't give the example yet, so don't give the COVID yet, but think about the explanation. So think about the cost of recreation centers, think about the cost of good nutrition or nutritional education, and then think about the cost of doctors and medicines and special machines, MRI machines, X-ray machines, and so on. So think about that for the explanation. Okay. Andres Sanchez, it's too simple. You're just repeating what's already in the introduction. Okay. Okay, let's see some explanations, students, some explanations. I'm going to throw up some explanations here, okay? So people frequently hear about the astronomical costs of doctors, nurses, and medical equipment to treat various types of illnesses. In comparison, the cost of recreational centers and nutritional advertising is arguably much less. Again, I would rather invest $5 into a washable face mask. Oh, sorry, I should say this is my example coming here now that I talked about. Washable face mask to avoid contracting the coronavirus, than having society spend $10,000 on a respirator to keep me alive during recovery from this sickness in a hospital where my daily care is an additional $1,000. Okay, so that would be my example. All right. Okay. Ventilators, that's right, Alex. So Alex says spending money on ventilators is in multi-specialty hospitals is too expensive. Therefore, it's wise to spend on nutritional ads and gymnasiums to keep the immune systems strong. These simple steps can save thousands of dollars. That's very good, Alex. Okay, you're definitely on the right track. Yeah. And why? Because we know, students, that the coronavirus, it attacks people with immune systems. And surely we can do a lot of preventative steps to keep our immune systems strong. Okay? All right. So we don't need a connecting or a concluding sentence for the second body paragraph because we're following with the conclusion. Okay, and the conclusion concludes the whole essay anyway, so you don't need a connecting or concluding sentence before the conclusion. It's redundant, it's unnecessary. Okay, now the conclusion has a couple of points. The first point for the conclusion is the points restated. Okay, and just start with in conclusion. So, in conclusion, prevention is preferable as it not only saves a boatload of money in the long run, but also leads to a happier and healthier society. Okay? So those are my points restated. Now notice I did something interesting here. I actually inverted my thesis. So I started with saving money and then the quality of life, right? It's because it's the inverse. So you don't have to write your points in the same order here as you did in the essay. You can invert them. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then you want to strengthen your argument. That's your next point, okay? Basically, the logic here in the conclusion is that you've given the information to your reader, you've made your argument. Task 2 is a persuasive essay, you persuade. And now you want to tell the reader that, hey, look, I gave you my points, I think I made a good argument, and it's time for you to believe what I'm saying, and I'm going to strengthen that with some stronger vocabulary, okay? So, as a result, I am hands down on the side of taking preemptive measures, on the side of spending money for preemptive measures in healthcare. Instead of wasting money. Now, I know that's harsh because it's not really wasting money, but I'm strengthening my argument here. So instead of wasting money on intervention. Okay. And then you want a take-home message. Okay. The take-home message is something that people will think about. It's something that they find valuable after reading all of this information and your argument. And it has to be closely connected or related to the information that's given in your essay. It cannot be a new idea. Okay? So, at the end of the day, no one really wants to be sick in the first place. Okay? That would be my take-home message. Hey, let's be honest with each other. Nobody really wants to get sick. We all want to be healthy, and we all want to avoid illness if possible. Okay, sure, so that looks good. Let's read the essay, make sure it makes sense, make sure it's good. Here we go again. So I will post this essay, students, on our YouTube community board as well later in the week. So you'll be able to check back there. Here we go. Read with me. Okay, so funding the war on illness is one of the biggest expenses incurred by both individuals and society. Not only government, but also the private sector invests billions of dollars on both prevention and intervention of diseases to maintain public health, thereby improving the life quality and productivity. Maximizing the return on investment in the healthcare field is in the interest of all people. I strongly agree that prevention is better than intervention, as it not only improves quality of life, but it also saves a lot of money. Spending money to avoid getting ill is always better for people than getting sick and then suffering through the illness until some type of medical help leads to recovery. As where most illnesses are extremely painful with symptoms like coughing, fever, aches, preemptive measures like funding sports and nutrition lead to an overall sense of strength and happiness. Furthermore, since the public remains in good health, they can be more productive and increase the overall economy of that society. As I recently experienced with the COVID-19 pandemic, governments were quick to implement preventative measures like mandatory lockdown to decrease public suffering and negative economic impact. This is one of two reasons I am strongly in favor of spending funds on prevention instead of a cure. History has shown that the cost of preventing most illnesses is only a fraction of the price of curing that disease. People frequently hear about the astronomical costs of doctors, nurses, and medical equipment to treat various types of illnesses. In comparison, the cost of recreation centers and nutritional advertising is arguably much less. Again, I would rather invest $5 into a washable face mask to avoid contracting the coronavirus than having society spend $10,000 on ventilators to keep me alive during recovery from this sickness in a hospital where my daily care is an additional $1,000. In conclusion, prevention is preferable as it not only saves a boatload of money in the long run, but also leads to a happier and healthier society. As a result, I am hands down on the side of spending money for preemptive measures in healthcare instead of wasting money on intervention. At the end of the day, no one really wants to be sick in the first place. All right, that is your Band 9 essay, and I will post that on the community board, students. So that's how it's done. Notice another trick, students, that I used here, which was using the same example in both of my body paragraphs. That's a really nice way to create cohesion in your essay as well. So if you can think of an example that works really well for both of your thesis points that you can use in both body paragraphs, that will give extra cohesion and get you closer to that high Band 9 score. You're very welcome, Sanem, Suman. Nice to see all of our members, Hina, Maksud, Rashika. Have a lovely day, everyone. Much love to all of you from Budapest. I'm Adrian, signing out for today. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow for some speaking part 2 and 3 practice. Bye for now.